are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I am Larck on Twitter, here to update everybody on the Auburn athletic program, because guess what? We are getting so close to baseball and softball season being in play, and we got some of that to talk about today. We'll get to that towards the end of the show, but to start off with, as I start getting notifications all over my computer, Auburn football adds yet another transfer to this outstanding transfer portal class, adding an edge rusher out of Sam Houston State and Chris Murray, a former TCU Horned Frog. Or he was a commit there, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember. I remember hearing TCU when doing my research. But last season for the Bearcats of Sam Houston, 26 solo tackles, 35 total. Also had 5.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. 6'4", 255-pound. Chris Murray is an absolute dog from all the film I've been watching of him. You're losing Jalen McLeod. He's going to be going to the NFL. No shocker there. And now you're going to replace him with Kieran Crawford, who's going to be stepping up as the starting edge rusher, a solid pass rusher who, due to some injuries, had to be on the sideline for some of the season. But whenever he came on the field and was healthy, he was good to go. And he was a dog every step of the way. And yes, he was a class 2021 at TCU, and then 2023 and 2024 he was spent with the Sam Houston Bearcats. There we go. Got that settled. My brain was going to be wrapped around that for a while. So what does Auburn get? They get another power rusher to go right behind Kieran Crawford. Watching Chris Murray, he's very quick off the line. And, of course, it could have been the level of play. I mean, you're going from being a Big 12 caliber player to having a transfer to the CUSA, and you're going to ball out. Of course you are. I mean, his first year there, he had 15 tackles, pass deflection, and a sack, and then definitely took a step up in year 2. Even ran a kickoff in his first year there. Got himself an attempt for 16 yards. I'm sure it was probably a squib kick or something he got to pick up and run with. But that size is no joke. 6'4", 255, you can't teach that. And I'm sure Coach Vaughn loves getting D linemen this big that are that quick. He was like a lightning bolt at 255 pounds off the line of scrimmage. He gets in the backfield very quickly. I wish ESPN did TFL so I could really get the idea of what he did. Not just what he did, but of just how good and how dominant he was as a defensive lineman for Sam Houston. And, of course, Sam Houston was not a bad team last year. They only had 3 losses in their second year out from FCS. So, absolute dog of a program going on over there. And, I mean, Chris Murray's going to be a dog in and of himself. You're going to combine 2 great power rushers, 3 if you account for Keldrick Falk, which Keldrick can do a little bit of both. But Auburn needs that. I mean, you had pretty good pass rush last year, and losing Jalen McLeod is going to affect that. And, if Kieran continues to step up in his game and you get a solid guy to go in right after him, of course, so you also have Jared Smith and so many people, so many dudes from that class of 2025 coming up, that his D-line could be the best part of this Auburn team next year. And I'm saying that even though the wide receiver core is legit, you go into this defensive line and you look at the guys they've brought in so far, looking at guys like Malik Autry, who I think is going to be an X factor in year 1. You have Malik Blockton, who is definitely going to be looking to improve from his great year 1 that he had for the Tigers. So, I mean, this is a great pickup for Auburn. You are solidifying that you are here to stay. You are trying to show the SEC that it was hard to run on this Auburn defense last year, but it's going to be very difficult whenever we beef up the defensive line. So great pickup for the Tigers. And, I love seeing the guys from the G5 get a chance to step up into a power conference, especially going from the CUSA to the SEC. So if Chris Murray if the game stuck with him from what he had at TCU and continues to improve, I mean, he's got 2 years of eligibility left. Or 1 more year of eligibility left, if I'm mistaken. So yeah, chance to prove himself before he gets a chance to go to the next level. So that kind of goes back on what I was saying before. But yeah, absolute dog. Very quick, very strong, and it's going to be a nice 1-2 punch with him and Kieran sharing one side of the defensive line. Maybe probably see a couple schemes where they're both on the field. We saw a lot of that last year with Keldrick kind of moving into the D tackle position, but I expect big things out of this defensive line going into next year. Speaking of this defensive line, not only are they adding edge rushers from the portal, they're also getting predicted to add some former Tigers back from the portal. Jeffrey Imba, we talk about him a lot over the past few days and past few weeks, really. Looking about where he's going to be looking to transfer. Shockingly enough, Auburn is getting predicted. He spent a year with the Tigers, only had 7 tackles, very disappointing year. He had a sack and a forced fumble. Went to Purdue, got a chance to show out, 16 tackles in his first year at Purdue, and then his past season, very bad year for Boilermakers, 30 tackles though for Jeffrey Imba, and of course a lot of talent, 6'6", 302 pounds. Dude's a dog. Whenever he came to Auburn from JUCO, I expected a lot of big things out of him. He was not JUCO, was it? Yeah, JUCO, coming out of France, if not mistaken. Dude had the talent. Dude had the potential to be a great defensive lineman for the Tigers, but things just didn't work out. New staff comes in, Imba transfers out, and you miss some parts of the defensive line in 2023. The interior defensive line was the weakest point, despite Marcus Harris having a great year. But after Marcus Harris, I mean, you had some depth issues there. Imba will come in and probably could take up one of the starting spots, if not maybe right off the bench. Maybe you're your metaphorical 6th man on the interior defensive line. But of course, that's a nose tackle, 6'6", 302 pounds. That's what you got to use to plug up gaps. And of course, you bring up Chris Murray, you bring up the guys Auburn brought in through the transfer portal. I mean, Auburn has one. I want to say, I don't know if it's still a top 5, but Auburn still has, there we go, on 3 has an Auburn number 6 transfer portal class. So a lot of those guys Auburn brought in were defensive linemen. I mean, Chris Murray, you're looking at, and now it's giving me all of them. Yeah, you got Chris Murray coming in. You got guys like Xavier Atkins from LSU, who's a linebacker, but still Dallas Walker from Western Kentucky. You got guys like that you're looking to plug in and really enforce that you want this defense to be a mainstay in the conference. The entire class of 2025 was just absolutely loaded with defensive line talent. You got guys like Jared Smith, Malik Autry, guys like Jordan Crawford is going to be a nose tackle for the Tigers in the future. Antonio Coleman, just guys like that who are going to be pinnacles and staples of this Auburn defensive line moving forward. And if Auburn can shut down run games, I mean, you look at teams like Georgia. Georgia had a 50-50 offense, but they like to run the ball when they can. Arkansas runs the ball a lot. Oklahoma had to run the ball a lot. Kentucky runs the ball a lot. They just lost their quarterback to retirement. Missouri likes to run the football. Alabama with Milroe like to run the football. So in a conference, and Vanderbilt as well likes to run the football. In a conference where running the football is the pinnacle, is the staple of the conference, you have to have a defensive line that can do what needs to be done, and that's locking down running backs. That's containing the run game, keeping quarterbacks in the pocket, and making sure that nothing gets outside the hashes. And that's what the staff and DJ Durkin have been working to get, and the defense was great last year. Secondary stepped up when it needed to. Young guys had to play when they weren't expected to. The linebacker room was one of the most surprising parts of this team because you had guys outside of Eugene Asante and Austin Keys that were balling out. That's something you didn't have 2 years ago. And the defensive line, now you're building up beef You're building up guys who are going to be stars for your defense. All you got to do, if you're Hugh Freeze, is just get this offense rolling in some way, shape, or form. I even think like a top 50 offense, not even top 50. Auburn had a top 50 offense last year, but the efficiency was the issue. If the offense can be efficient, if the offense can readily put up 27 to 30 points a game against Power 5 opponents, you're looking at a team that can win a lot of games. And eight wins is like the borderline here for Hugh Freeze. You got to show steady improvement. You didn't show it last year. So you got to win games this year. You got to turn those games around. We talked about in the New Year's resolution episode. Those close losses that you had this past season can't be losses next season. You got the same conference schedule, just the games are flipped. Instead of being at home, you're away. Instead of being away, you're at home. And, of course, now you got the Georgia and Bama game at Jordan-Hare Stadium this year. So plenty of opportunities. Transfer portal has been going off ever since Hugh Freeze stepped in. Not so much the previous year, but you picked up some guys that were pinnacle and why your defense is so good. Dorian Mausi, of course, being one of the underrated guys that doesn't get talked about enough, and Jaron Thompson being another one of those guys as well. So, Super Savage 2025 season. I want to say it's Auburn season starts in, is it late August this year? Or is it early September? It's always around the same time, but yeah, 8 months with Marvel football. But of course, spring practice not far away either. So getting prepared for that as we get closer and closer to Auburn football gracing our conversations yet again. But something that is exciting to talk about, Auburn basketball is, the greatest show on a court right now. Number 2 team in the nation per AP poll yet again, which absolutely sucks because this is the best team in the nation. They just have to be unlucky about having one loss on their slate. So what happened this past weekend? Auburn took down their first SEC opponent of the year against Missouri, beat them by 16. Game was much more of a blowout than it showed. But now another test comes up. You're traveling to Austin, Texas, to take on the Texas Longhorns in their second SEC game of the season, their first home game of their SEC slate. This past weekend on the 4th, they took on Texas A&M. They lost by 20 points to the buzzsaw himself. So what does Texas do well? They shoot the ball extremely well. 50% as a team from the field, 40% from the three-point line, and they got some dudes who can score. Trey Johnson, a freshman guard who's 6'6", 19 points per game. He's averaging 2.7 rebounds, 2.3 assists, almost a steal a game, half a block a game, but shooting 41% from the three-point line, 46% from the field, 86% from the free throw line. And, with that being your main, weapon scoring, this game's going to come down to the defense of Denver Jones. Denver's now making that shift over to being a point guard for the Tigers. And, he's been locked down for Auburn. He has been one of the best two-way players in the nation. And, he needs to get more love. Auburn has 5 players right now averaging double digits per game. And, they're also one of the best defenses in the country. And you get that with Denver Jones. You're going to get that with guys like, Tahad Pettiford, who's also been a not pretty good, but a really good lockdown defender himself. And Auburn as a team has just been really good defensively. So Trey Johnson's going to be a weapon there for Texas, 6'6", 190-pound guard who, as a freshman, again, almost 20 points per game. Another guy to look out for, their leading rebounder, Arthur Kaluma, 6'7" senior, averaging 8.4 rebounds per game, but he has the unfortunate mistake to be dealing with the best player in the country in Janai Broome, who's averaging, he's basically leading Auburn in almost every category except for steals. 18.6 points per game, 11.1 rebounds per game, averaging a double-double on the year, 3.3 assists, 2.7 blocks per game, which is absolutely ridiculous. Dylan Cardwell right behind him with 1.4, which not really right behind him. Steals, though, I mean, Janai is not even that far behind Chad Baker-Mazara, who's averaging 1.2. He's 0.5. He's half a steal away from averaging that per game. So, looking at Texas' schedule, I mean, again, we talk about how they lost to Texas A&M this past weekend, but Texas does have a couple of losses on their under their belt. I mean, you're looking at their 11-3. I don't think anybody in the SEC is a bad team. But when you look at Texas' schedule, they lost to Ohio State, they lost to UConn. Every team that's like in the outside of Syracuse, in the Power 4 conversation, they took a loss to. They beat NC State. At them to the Syracuse thing. NC State, though, not the team they were last year. Syracuse also on a decline. But Ohio State beat them by 8 in the beginning of the season. UConn beat them by 9. If my math serves me right, that's 11 points. There we go. Journalism major over here. 11 points. And then, again, A&M, number 13 team in the country, they walked into College Station and got the brakes blown off of them, 80-60. So I look at this game. Auburn's got the edge offensively, I would say. Auburn has been one of the most efficient teams on both sides of the court, whether it be front court, back court, offense, defense, whatever it is. Auburn has been one of the most efficient teams in the country and just in basketball in general. I'll even go just in basketball. Auburn currently stands as a 10-point favorite. I think this game could be close to start off with. Again, Texas, I'm trying not to say A&M because I'm so used to saying Texas A&M and not just Texas. But yeah, Texas shoots the ball very well from the three-point line. If Auburn isn't able to shut them down early, this game could be close going into halftime, but ultimately I think Auburn prevails in this game, starting off 2-0 SEC conference play. I like the spread there in 10 points, so I'm going to say 80-70, like some 80-70 range. I'll go 82-71. Auburn gets a nice 11-point win over a team that shoots the ball very well and gets Auburn another great win against a SEC opponent on the road. Of course, up next for the Tigers after Texas. On the 11th, they'll be traveling to South Carolina to take on the Gamecocks. But, of course, that game is tonight. The Texas game is tonight at 8 o'clock p.m. CST. Game will be on ESPN2. So get ready for the Auburn Tigers to hopefully start off the SEC conference play 2-0. So before we move on to Diamond Sports, we're going to go to a quick little commercial break. Other side of this break, we're going to finish up talking about Auburn baseball coming up in the top 25 just for the preseason. There we go. And then Auburn softball getting ready for their season. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program. And of course, it's available on thewarreport.com. Go to the shop. You can get your very own college loop t-shirt, the Feelin' Loopy shirt, as well as the college loop hat. Was the best items you can wear in your entire life. I mean, they are just so comfortable, best things ever. And that's just one way to support the show. And it's like the second best way to support the show. Not even second, probably fourth best way to support the show. The best way to support the show is by 1, subscribing, 2, liking the video, and 3, leaving comments talking about what your opinions are about anything Auburn related. It doesn't have to be Auburn related. I like talking about all things sports. I got to talk to Chris Causey about the Carolina Panthers on Twitter, talking about how the Panthers are just on pace to be the best team in the NFL next season. It can happen. It really can. So yeah, super stoked about the NFL season coming to a close. I got to watch my team kick a rival out of the playoffs. It's the greatest feeling in the world, knowing that you ended someone else's season. But yeah, super stoked for that. Yeah, leave your thoughts, though, in the comment section below. How do you think Auburn has done so far in the transfer portal? And which acquisition do you think is going to be the most pivotal in Auburn football success in the 2025 season? So That being said, Diamond Sports, we are just a few weeks away. Actually, I think both seasons start in February, from both baseball and softball being back. Auburn baseball though starting off early. 2025 preseason top 25 rankings per perfect game has Auburn listed as a number 22 team in the nation. Last year for Auburn baseball did not have the best season, 27-26. Did not make it to the postseason. Nothing went right for Auburn baseball last year. You didn't have a healthy strain of pitchers. You didn't have consistent hitting, but it fixes that. A very good transfer portal class and a very good high school recruiting class, which Butch Thompson has been able to bring in and year out. So that earns you a top 25 ranking. Auburn is currently the second highest ranked team that did not make it to the postseason last year. TCU coming in at number 18, and of course the number 1 in that list as well. So yeah, super stoked for Auburn baseball to be back. I need to do some research on this team fully, kind of see where we're at. I was still shocked by the keeping of Auburn's pitching coach, but to teach their own. I think that Auburn will be a very solid team this year. Butch Thompson, after down years, usually has Auburn turned around very quickly. So super stoked about that. Other Diamond Sports to talk about here. Auburn softball, they are back on campus for the new semester, getting ready for preseason practices starting up. The Malvoes have their own team built up through high school and transfer portal. Got a lot of new faces that I'm super excited to see. And of course, Maddie Penta, no longer with the program. She has graduated and is off to bigger and better things. So now you got a couple of familiar faces, Emma Rolfe and Milena Tambora, who are back pitching for Auburn. But you also got some new faces that you're looking to see going forward. We got Haley Rainey, 5'10", right-handed pitcher, senior, as well as S.J. Guerin. I hope I'm saying that right. A transfer left-handed pitcher out of Oklahoma, who is the pinnacle of. I've said pinnacle a lot in this episode, but they are. Oklahoma is like the peak of what you want out of a college softball program. So super stoked to see how these new faces turn Auburn's program around. Of course, I think the Malvoes have done a great job of getting a lot of great talent out of the portal. You're getting some players out of the SEC. I mean, like you look at Mania Womack. There we go. Out of Ole Miss, you got Kylie Brockman who's coming out of Arkansas. Of course, as mentioned, SJ is coming from Oklahoma. So you got a lot of great players coming out of the SEC programs, as well as a lot of high schoolers moving up who are very highly ranked in of themselves. So super stoked for Auburn softball. I just want to give a little update on that because Auburn softball, can't lie, I love going to Auburn softball games. They're super fun. They don't even take too long either. It's like gymnastics and Auburn softball are like two of my favorite things to go watch in person. Of course, Auburn football is always number 1 and men's basketball number 2. But 3 and 4, I mean, you're looking at gymnastics and softball filling those roles out. Me and my fiance, we love going to Auburn softball games. We try to go to at least a couple a year. We already have meet tickets bought. We're going to the Auburn Georgia gymnastics meet in February because we're a house divided. She is a Georgia fan. I'm an Auburn fan, so we're gonna go. She hopefully will be supporting Auburn in that regard. But regardless, super stoked for all these sports coming up. Love the spring season so much. Wish you got more love. Wish you got a lot more love from the entirety of the fan base. But regardless, super stoked to have the sports back on our TVs and back on the fields going forward. So that is for some of the College Loop podcast. I am Dylan Larck again at your boy the Tank on Twitter, at Dylan Larck, DYLEN LRCK on Instagram. Excuse me. And of course, if I'm right in the College Loop podcast, would like, comment, subscribe, again. Leave your thoughts. How has Hugh Freeze done so far in the transfer portal, and who's the best acquisition Auburn has made thus far? And of course, don't forget to also like and subscribe again. Can't overstate that enough. Check us out on social medias at the College Loop, literally everywhere: Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the works, all those at the College Loop. And audio versions of the show available on Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Now, with all that being said, thanks for watching some of the College Loop Podcast yet again. And as always, War Eagle.